Hey guys, it's Tabby. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about spark plugs, the importance of a spark plug, the importance of upgrading your spark plugs when looking to tune the vehicle, and also a little bit about one of the main components in an engine and one of the main components of the ignition system and the combustion cycle. Okay, so for me, I'm a huge fan of the NGK offerings when it comes to spark plugs. They seem to have most bases covered. One of the only reasons really you need to step outside of the manufacturer specified spark plugs when you're looking at tuning the vehicle. Keeping the spark at its optimum to help combust the air-fuel mixture is super important. One of the most important things to get right is the thread size, the thread length and the thread pitch. If the reach is too long, you risk the piston coming up and gapping the spark plug for you. Although the more the electrode projects into the cylinder, the better the ignition it provides. It also means that the longer the electrode projection, the more sustainable to wear. So one of the other things to look at is really what the plug is actually made up of. The most common materials used by the manufacturers is copper, nickel, platinum and iridium. Copper, as well as a conductor, and I almost said insulator then, as well as a conductor as it is, it's quite a soft metal, which is why sort of platinum is introduced into most of the modern cars. It has a longer lifespan, that's why manufacturers like it. And then next from there, you're looking at the performance plugs. Most performance plugs use an iridium electrode. The reason for this is it's said to be 6 times harder than platinum and has a approximately 370 degrees higher melting point than platinum. So performance wise, the iridium is what you'll find in most performance plugs. Okay, so another thing to consider is the actual firing end of the spark plug. The most commonly used is the single ground wide gap spark plug. However, you can see spark plugs with up to about 4 grounds on them. This particular one has 3 grounds on. The reason for this, they're actually designed to combat cold fouling. Okay, so finally we need to look at the heat ranging of the spark plug. It's important to pick a heat range that's going to keep the electrode at its optimum temperature. The importance of this is to keep the spark plug performing the best it can. The higher the heat range number doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make your engine perform better. It really just relates to how quickly the heat is dissipated from the cylinder via the spark plug. Okay, so one of the things we're going to talk about now is basically how to gap a spark plug properly and how to gap it to the correct specification. Okay, so one of the most important things to consider when gapping a spark plug is using the correct tools. A set of feeler gauges, obviously important to measure the gap. A tool to open and close the gap. These wire ends that are designed to go in between the electrodes are no good. These ends are pretty cool for opening it and closing the gap. Careful not to damage the ceramic. And also this tool is pretty cool for closing the gap. You insert your feeler gauge in and you can just close the gap up to the feeler gauge. One of the last things I want to touch on is how to install a spark plug correctly using the correct socket and a torque wrench. The importance of getting the right torque spec on a spark plug, it stops us any risk of over tightening the spark plug causing any damage to the ceramic, which can then in turn damage the engine or the turbo. One of the other things to look for, if you accidentally drop a spark plug, that needs to go straight in the bin. Okay, so finally before we finish, I'd just like to throw one thing in there. Maintenance of the spark plug I mean, for us here, we say on an NGK race plug, about 10 to 15,000 miles, change intervals. But what I would always suggest is, take advice from your tuner on that one. I'd just like to thank you all for dropping in to view our latest video. Any comments that you might have, please put in the comments. That would make sense. Yes, put your comments in the comments. If you'd like to share the video, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, all those things help, with us bringing you content, through this hard time. Please, everybody, stay safe out there, and thanks for coming.